Now on this side, you want to bend these pipes nice and slow with 2 hands, and that will ensure that you won't kink it right up here. And then I added a plastic cover up here so that the bugs will not go in, but you need to use gap sealer and also the putty that comes with the heat pump and shove it inside this hole and make sure it's sealed nice and tight. Next, I remove the tape so that we can work on these 2 pipes right here. These 2 connection points are going to connect to the line set, but to use the line set, you need to roll it out on the ground carefully. So again, you do not cause any kinks. Now that the line set is rolled out, we can remove these plastic covers and hand connect them to these 2 connections. Make sure they're nice and straight at the very end where we're going to do the connecting. Do not use tools, use your hands. Now that these are hand tight, we can use a torque wrench and a special tool that I'm going to link below so that you can torque these to the proper spec. And these are the tools. You connect these to a torque wrench and then you can tighten these down to the proper spec. If you don't do that, it will probably leak. Or you can purchase one of these. This is an HVAC specific torque wrench. And the torque spec is in the manual, so please read the manual and do this right, unless it will leak. That's perfect. All right, this one's torqued. Now we do the second one. All right, that one's good too. Now I connected the other side of the line set and I torqued them to the proper spec. And then this is the cable that connects to the indoor unit. And there's a 1, 2, and a 3 and a ground. And then this is an extension cord that goes to 120 volts. So we have a line, neutral, and a ground. Now the next step is evacuating these lines. We're going to use a vacuum pump to take out the moisture and all of the other gases that are inside this line set in the inside unit. Now the first thing you need is a vacuum pump. I bought this at Harbor Freight, but you can also buy these online. They're about $100. When you first get it, you need to add oil to this level right here. Next, you're going to need a manifold gauge set. These are about $50 to $75, and I'll have a link below for what I recommend. This one was from Harbor Freight, and it's super easy to use and very cheap. And the last thing you need for this is an adapter. This allows you to connect this manifold gauge set to the condenser at the service port right here. If you don't have this adapter, you won't be able to use these tools with your mini split. Now the setup is pretty easy. We're only using the low pressure side, so connect the blue hose to the low pressure side, and then connect the yellow hose to the center connector. And make sure they're nice and tight. And at the end of the blue hose, connect your adapter. And then we're going to connect the yellow hose to the vacuum pump. And make sure it's nice and tight. We're going to put our gauges right here. Now we're going to remove these protective caps. Now we have a 2-way valve and a 3-way valve. This right here is the service port. These 2 down here are for opening up the refrigerant inside of this unit. Do not touch these until we are done vacuuming the lines. So first we're going to attach this adapter to the service port. Make sure everything's nice and tight. Now before we turn on this vacuum pump, we need to open up the valve on the low pressure side. We're going to loosen that up all the way. Now when I turn this vacuum pump on, it will evacuate the moisture and the gases in this line, and there should be some steam or vapor coming out right here. So let's turn this thing on. And look at that. Perfect. And now after about 10 seconds, the vapor stopped. Now we have a vacuum on the line set, so we're going to look over at the gauges and see what's going on. And this is what you want to see. Previously, it was at 0, but now that it's under a vacuum, it's at -30. And we want to hold this for about 15 minutes. So it's been a solid 15 minutes, and now it's time for the moment of truth. We're going to close this valve on the low pressure side, and then we're going to turn off the vacuum pump, and we're going to see if the line set can hold this vacuum. If it can't, and this rises to 0, that means we have a leak in the system. But if it stays at -30, then we're good to go. That means that the vacuum is holding and there's no air going into the line set. But to ensure that there's no leaks, we're going to hold this vacuum for a few minutes. If it rises to 0, then we need to check our connections. If it stays at -30, then we're good to go. And check that out. After a few minutes, it's not leaking. We are still holding a very good vacuum. Now we can move on to the next step. Now for the next step, we want to put a positive pressure on the line set so we can safely remove this connector right here. Because if I were to remove it right now, there's a possibility of air and moisture going in for just a quick second, and that would mess up our whole vacuum. And all you need for this step is an Allen wrench. But first, we have a 2-way valve for high pressure on the bottom, and we're going to open it a 1/4 of a turn for 5 seconds. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then we're going to close it. Nice and easy.
Now we're going to look at our gauge. Now we're at a positive pressure. It's above 0. So now we can safely remove this connection to the service port. And it is scary for beginners because gas will come out while you're doing this. But you just have to commit and keep unscrewing it. And wear gloves if you have them. Just like that. And then put the cap back on the service port. Now we can safely open up these valves and release the refrigerant into the line set. We're going to start with the high pressure valve first and go nice and slow. Now you can open it all the way, but when it stops, do not go any further. Right there. And then put the cap back on and then open the low pressure side until it stops. And there we go, the refrigerant is in the lines. We have a closed system.